I think that everyone has met our new grants manager by now, Rachel Sample. She is going to kick us off and lead this discussion today. Again, like I said, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy days to join us, and especially on a short notice for this meeting.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hello. Just one second. I'm gonna share my screen. I would sometimes do best just having a little bit of something to organize my thoughts. So I put together just something really simple um, to help us have our discussion today. So, as Amanda said, my name is Rachel Sample. I am the new Community Services Grants Manager here at IHCDA. For those of you who I haven't had a chance to chat with or interact with, I am not new to the homeless services world. I come from the Indianapolis continuum of care, but I'm familiar with CV funding, very familiar, but haven't had the opportunity to work as intricately until now with this funding, and have really been learning a lot from Amanda and all the expertise and experience Diane has had as well in ESG. So I want to just kind of kick us off today, letting you know kind of what our purpose is of the discussion, because I know when Amanda reached out, she just kind of said, we just want to have a follow up to last time, but we do have a couple things we really want to get a sense of today, and also provide some information to you all about additional funding. So really, just wanting to check in with you all about how things are going with rapid rehousing ESGCV, learn a little bit more about what you all are experiencing, provide some information to you all about support that we can provide, and discuss what your ongoing funding needs might be. We are going to be talking about some additional funding that's available. I am going to briefly touch on the recent HUD announcement of supplemental NOFO. For those of you who have seen that, we're not going to spend a lot of time talking about that today, but it's the elephant in the room, so I didn't want to ignore it. But mostly, we're going to be talking about existing ESG CV funding, and what's an opportunity for you in that space. Going to have Amanda go over how you can express interest in that funding, and then answer any questions you might have. Again, we'll do our best to answer questions about that new NOFO, but we don't have a ton of information yet. We'll be sharing more about that soon, but would love to answer any questions you have about ESG, CV, and rapid rehousing. I'm just going to throw out there right now, I cannot see if you are commenting in the chat, so I'm hoping that Amanda is able to kind of capture anything there, and we can make sure we answer your questions as we go along if we need to. So just kind of checking in with you all, and bringing up some things that came up in the last roundtable. I didn't have the pleasure of joining you all for that roundtable, but Amanda and I have debriefed about it a couple of times. And from everything, and Amanda, feel free to jump in here. From everything that we really talked about, it sounds like the the stress and pressure of rapid rehousing, which is always a part of administering these funds, is really high right now, because in particular we're struggling to find affordable units and landlords who will partner with our programs. That's not unique to Indiana, but it doesn't change the fact that it is a challenge in your community, and in your program. We also had heard that those hotel motel stay opportunities had been really valuable in some communities. Being able to use that funding to help keep people off the street has been an important part of what you all have been able to use funding for, if you've been doing that. And that that we do have more opportunities to take advantage of landlord incentives, to engage in things like master leasing, and to utilize landlord engagement tools and practices, that some of our partners have really kind of gotten a good handle on this. Other folks are still trying to explore how they can utilize those better, and would love to, find opportunities to support any of that work as you guys move forward. Just kind of checking in, I guess. I know, this is a round table, so this is an open forum, and would love to hear from you then. How is it going? How are things going for you in relation to, how you're able to administer your program, how funding, has been going for you, things like that. Would just love to hear anything else folks would like to share about what's been going on.
And if you want, you can either type in the chat or you can raise your hand and take yourself off mute, whatever works best for you. Everyone's quiet today. All right. Jennifer says we continue to struggle with finding affordable housing units. Would like detailed information on how to do master leasing.
I was able to attend a great rural homelessness webinar earlier this week on Monday. One of the national TA providers hosted one, and master leasing was a hot topic there. So I'm really hoping we're supposed to be getting a whole host of resources for those who attended that call. So I'm really hoping to be able to get that out to folks soon because I know that is just a real area of curiosity. People don't necessarily always understand it, and you really want guidance to make sure you're doing it right. Nobody wants to be left holding the bag at the end if it's wrong. Totally get it.
I don't know included in that. I apologize. If there was, I know some of the things that they had talked about on office hours is that they were also working on guidance on doing subleasing and also helping your clients with partnering up with roommates and
Shared
doing
housing.
additional roommates. Yeah, shared housing, things like that. They're really trying to. We all know, and at least HUD is also recognizing these challenges, so they're really trying to get guidance out on how to do that with your clients as well. Okay, Tony also has a question. So when we talk about potential new funding, we are running out of scattered site safe housing funds in November. Is this an option through ESG, the potential new funding? Scattered site meaning we have 3 homes that we rent and use as safe housing in addition to our shelter funding.
I'd have to learn a little bit more about your program to know whether or not it would be eligible under ESGCV. And certainly the funding that is coming through the new supplemental NOFO, it's got a lot of typically ineligible expenses under the NOFO. It also depends on for that funding, for that supplemental NOFO, it would also depend on where you're located because the rural funding has some additional flexibility that the traditional or the more traditional part of the NOFO, which is the unsheltered NOFO, that has more traditional COC funding. So as we move on to that page, I can talk about that a little bit more and provide you the links. Oh, you're very rural. Okay, Tony. I'm not sure where your program is located. So what county are you in?
They're located in Attica.
Okay. Okay, found.
Um,
Well, that's not the county, but that's the town they're located in.
Yeah. I'm still learning a lot.
I
I-
can't
I'm
remember the
on.
county offhand.
Yeah,
yeah,
yep, yep. No, all of those are considered rural in that NOFO, so we can connect offline to discuss, lots of details, but I'll certainly be providing a little bit more information about where you can find information on your own for that.
yeah. And after we release some of this information out and put these things out, if any of you need to set up a one-on-one with us or need to go in an offline call, please let us know and we'll get that set up with you. There's a lot of new information coming out. We're trying to digest it as quickly as we can. HUD even recognizes too that they just threw this on us, a lot of it. So we're all we're scrambling, but we're happy to work through it with you as we work through it ourselves.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, well, if anybody has anything else, we'll give it another minute to talk, but we can hop into kind of what else is coming. Mm, mm-hmm.
Okay, Angie says we're currently putting several in our rapid rehousing program that are really more appropriate for permanent supportive housing, but we don't have many openings for permanent supportive housing in our region. Is this something other regions are struggling with?
Angie, can I just ask for a point of clarification there? Is it the supportive aspect of the permanent supportive housing that you're seeing in those folks, or is it really just the ongoing uh, subsidy? Because I know that sometimes I know supportive housing is obviously supportive housing, but I know sometimes we struggle with just the fact that folks don't have an ongoing subsidy to pay for their rent too. So I just want to clarify that. Okay, thanks, Angie. Yeah. Yeah, we definitely have seen that in Indianapolis, so it doesn't surprise me that you guys are seeing that in your communities as well. There's just because of we expanded all of this shorter term rental assistance, all of the but they didn't expand the supportive housing. So we're taking folks in, which is great, but their exit pathway isn't maybe as clear as what we would typically see, right? When we bring people in and hope that we might be able to make a transfer into a PSH program. We've just got so many more people in, there's just not nearly enough openings. We understand that.
It looks like other people are commenting that they're experiencing the same thing. Jennifer Layton also said that they don't have the continuous rental subsidy. Then also Jenna.
Yeah.
So for those that might be transferring from ESG CV projects to regular ESG projects, if we have tenants that have not reached their assistance time that was determined at intake, is there a process that we would have to do to transfer them between projects if they are able to?
That's a really good question, Amanda. I think we need to write that one down to make sure we're providing appropriate guidance because I don't know the coordinate entry implications of moving people from one program to the other.
And we are working through that as far as, what this looks like after, when you need to start moving your clients to other program when the CV funding ends. However, during this conversation, we are going to talk a little bit about there is some additional CV funding, so you might be able to leave them for your rapid rehousing clients. You might be able to leave them on this project a little while longer.
And Amanda, this is Diane. I was just going to add that I don't know of any process to transfer clients from one project to another. I simply only know of them exiting out of one program and then, you know, creating an intake for the other program.
Yeah, I think that guidance, I had sent that out previously, the guidance as far as moving CV clients and helping them, it's going to depend on the client and what their needs are, whether, they're transferred to regular ESG, whether they're transferred to IERA or to a COC project. But yeah, I think probably the most clear cut, I'll have to go back and look at that guidance, but I think the most clear cut is exiting them from one project and doing an intake into another project. But I think a lot of that could possibly be just internal, procedure on how you're going to do that. But we will definitely take that into consideration and try to get some guidance out. We are, again, I know I've mentioned this previously too. We're having internal discussions about also transferring clients to IERA for their rental assistance. Okay, sorry, I'm looking through the chat here. Danette, continued subsidy is an issue in Region 12 as well. Katrina Rhodes, yes, us too. Section 8 is almost unheard of in our community. The EHV has helped a couple individuals though. That's a good topic. We're glad to hear that EHV is out there and helping. If you have any questions on that, we do have partners that we could reach out to at IHCDA that are helping with those EHVs that are not with the your local.
Katrina, did you want to add anything else? I see you have your hand up. I know sometimes we put our hand up and then we can't figure out how to take our hand down though. So I don't want to put you on the spot if you've said your piece.
Yeah. No, you're good. You brought up one of the things I was going to mention with our other plan with ERA for people that couldn't be put into any other project. And then also when you are talking about exiting a client from one program and enrolling them in another, are you guys doing the whole coordinated entry process again for them in that instance?
I'm not sure of that, and our CE coordinator couldn't be on today, so we would have to run that by her. I'm not sure how that ties in with that process.
Okay. I hope that you don't have to, but but yeah.
Yeah, that would not be good. But we will see. We'll double check and see what that process looks like.
Yeah, there
Right,
just may be a part of like just documenting that it's happening inside CE so that it's,
right.
what part of what yeah.
Somebody said they're not doing it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Anything else anybody wants to share? Okay, well, I'll move on to the other topics we wanted to address with you guys. Let's make sure I'm looking at the right thing. So just as we were just saying, just some things we want to make sure is very clear for you all to know that we're here to provide as IHCDA staff. There are some waivers that are going to be up for extension or re-upping if they have expired and we can ask for them again. We're going to be sending out information about those in particular for non-CV. So for those of you who receive other funding from IHCDA or directly from HUD through Continuum of Care, just know that more information about waivers is coming because we did get that notice and we're working on getting that information out to you all so you can decide if you'd like to be a part of the waiver request. Unfortunately, we're not able to just like say, yeah, just give us all the waivers for everybody. We have to demonstrate that we've asked and say, yes, we did ask people if they wanted them. We're not just like making up that people want waivers, though I don't know why why we wouldn't want some of these waivers. I think everybody would take them if they could. So look for that coming out soon. And we are going to be able to get that in by the deadline to HUD at the end of next month. So we're looking forward to be able to get those submitted and then hopefully get those, like I said, either re-upped or brought back online if they happen to have lapsed in the last couple of months. There is also, an opportunity for us to provide more program guidance on landlord incentives and answer any questions you have about that. And we can also, look at peer states and other communities about how they're utilizing funding to help you identify ways you might be able to, partner with, different types of programs or use things for, like I said, landlord incentives or funding positions and things like that that may help you with landlord engagement and stuff like that. Did somebody have a question?
I just had a quick follow-up on the waivers before we move on. So I did want to point out, I know a big concern during our last discussion was FMR and rent reasonableness. They are extending that to regular ESG because we had talked about that, like those waivers are there for CV. But if you are going to move one of your clients to regular ESG, for instance, that waiver will, like you will be able to take advantage of that waiver. So that is one of them. And I want to throw that out there because I know that's been a big concern.
Yeah, that's great. Great, Amanda. And definitely, as we get that out in the next week or so, let us know, if that's something you're interested in. And we'll make sure, we express that interest because we'd want to, capture that and make sure we're providing that feedback to HUD. Um, just really, again, want to make sure you guys know that we're here to provide any kind of technical assistance about specific questions you have in utilizing funding. We are happy to provide spaces like this to do some peer learning for between each other if people have found different partnerships or ways that you have spent your funding that you have felt like was really useful or meaningful. And then it does sound like it would be good for us to maybe provide some education or another session like this with the IERA team so that there's an opportunity for everybody to learn more about how that program operates and how you can connect folks to that. If you're having trouble or aren't sure how to connect with the EHVs in your area, please let us know. Amanda's been doing some great collaboration and discussion with Lauren over on the EHV team to learn how we can make sure people have access if that's something that they are eligible for. And then just other voucher programs, we'd be happy to check in with our real estate team to make sure that everybody knows how to access those, especially in cases where you've got somebody who does have that ongoing subsidy need and they're going to be running out of time on an ESG program. And then if there's anything else that would be helpful to you all as we talk about, opportunities for more funding, if you have questions about different ways other folks are using their funding and things like that, would love to hear from that. Or, feel free to put it in the chat or send us an email so that, you guys are feeling supported in, trying to implement your programs the way you'd like to. So
We
are there any questions in the chat? I was just going to ask that.
Yep. We have a comment from Angie. I think connecting with IERA staff would be very helpful. Sometimes we need to connect with them on clients to avoid duplication of assistance. Yeah.
Yeah, and that can be quite a stressor too. So we appreciate that, and we can definitely do that. I'm looking at trying to set something up for our team pretty soon, and then we can talk with them about what we could bring into this space. So I would look for us to probably do something like that next month. I think we can make that a priority to get that done and happening. Okay, well, wanted to now kind of get into the fun part, right? Money's fun. Sometimes. And just let you know that through all of the different, recapturing of funds as people have closed down hubs and money has gone unspent, we have identified approximately $1 million of additional funding that could be reallocated to ESG CV. We wanted to speak with you all about this first because HUD has provided guidance and really encouraged communities to continue to invest in rapid rehousing. Whether that is Balance Estates or individual cities, they're really saying, there is need for folks. There's folks that are experiencing homelessness, and we want to get them a permanent place to be. And that rapid rehousing, is the way this funding opportunity can pay for that. And that because of the existing funding timeline, for folks like you all has now been extended, we Amanda can go into detail about what this new opportunity would look like, but I just want to be clear: we're not talking about giving everybody giving somebody $1 million and asking you to spend it by December of this year. If you do express interest in this funding and you are awarded these funds, we would give you from September of this year to September of next year to expend. And again, Amanda is going to talk more about what that's going to look like. But you would then be closing out, everything October, November, December next year. You were still expecting you to hit your existing spending deadline for the stuff you have right now in December, because we really are trying to continue to demonstrate to HUD that we are able to spend. Yes, we do love you with the no match requirement, Jennifer. You're 100% right. But we wanted to talk to you all again. HUD has said rapid rehousing is a need. That this is, the housing first principle of rapid rehousing as a resource is something they want communities and states to prioritize. And we realize that if we are providing you with more rapid rehousing, ideally we should be giving you a year, right? So that potentially you could bring on new clients and give them a full year's worth of rental assistance. And it's a lot easier to talk to a landlord about rental assistance if you're able to commit to a year of rental assistance. So that's why we wanted to have this conversation now, so that you all can make your determinations and decide if you want to ask for additional funds, and that we would hopefully be able to get that out to you ASAP, early September. I think is what Amanda and I's hope is. If it could be sooner, I think we'd just like to get this money out the door. So are there any questions? Amanda's going to talk about how you can apply. Yeah. Amanda, could you answer this question from Jesse regarding the potential reallocation? What is the threshold for COVID affected status?
Yes. So again, this funding, even though it's continued, on a programmatic level, the funding has to be used to prepare, prevent, and respond to coronavirus. So that is what the statute says. You don't have to do that by client. Again, on your program level, it has to be used to prepare, prevent, and respond to coronavirus. That's what HUD has keep looking out to us. So again, as Jennifer just put in the chat, I think there are a lot of cases that you can make for your programs to fit in that category.
I would say, Jesse has a follow-up question. Can removing a client from a congregate setting, a shelter suffice? I would definitely say that anytime we're able to move folks out of congregate spaces, we are, supporting that public health goal of keeping folks, distance and safe. So that definitely aligns. And similarly, unsheltered environments where folks are congregating, it's, they may be outside, but they still are often in tents or enclosures together, and also unsafe situations too. So. All right. So, are there any other questions about just generally the additional funding that's available through ESGCV? Mm-hmm.
Katrina had a question. Would it be the same things we spend on, for example, landlord incentives, et cetera, the same as the original grant has been? Yes. This is all the same funding stream, the same guidelines apply to all of this funding. You can keep, just keep moving forward with your program and use this funding, with your program, add it to your current award. We do, again, like, Rachel had said, you can get a full year's worth of rental assistance, but you can also start trying to think creatively with these funds and these projects. I know during our last roundtable, we had discussed possibly, having roles such as a housing navigator or housing assistance or something like that kind of position. I know some of you already have those. So, if it means something like if that's a contracted position with this funding, if you need to extend those contracts with this funding, that would be okay. If you're funding that, like however you're doing that, I know it's been helpful. So again, think about those types of things, your case management, all of those types of eligible activities can be used with this funding, not just, I know it's difficult finding the housing. So try to think through those roadblocks that you're facing and how this funding can help those roadblocks that you've been facing.
Amanda, Jennifer asked a question. How many agencies have rapid rehousing ESG-CV across the state? I don't actually know that number off the top of my head. Do you know how many funded folks we have through CV on rapid rehousing?
Well, through there are some with, I think, through entitlement cities as well. So I don't know if you're asking just through IHCDA or all across the board. Just IHCDA. I think we have about 18. I would have to go back and double check that. We have about 18 subrecipients for ESGCV.
So one thing I wanted to add, and Diane is here and can provide a little bit of context to this, is I think because we have we've brought on new partners through ESG CV. There's been this surge in funding because of CV. And, there's this understanding that this money is going away. Obviously, we're providing this additional opportunity to extend funding. But there was a lot of interest in emergency solutions grant funding this year. Diane had more applications than she has seen in the past, and Diane can provide that more information about that. But as she provides some of that information, I want to just recognize that if you are somebody that typically applies for ESG rapid rehousing, because there are additional applicants, if everybody meets the threshold, it is a formulaic grant. And so you may be receiving less ESG than you would typically receive. And so this could also be an opportunity for you to shore up some of that ESG funding that you may have anticipated to receive through the traditional ESG application. Diane, can you provide any more information about that?
Yep. I just to put it all in context and give you an idea. In the past, last year we had 53 shelter recipients. This year we got 66 shelter applicants. 12 rapid rehousing. This time it's 17 agencies applying for rapid rehousing funding. And our street outreach count went from 6 to 16. So we have gone from 71 total ESG subrecipients to possibly 99, assuming that everybody would meet the thresholds and qualify and be awarded. So just to give you an idea.
So on the one hand, that's really exciting because it means potentially we're serving underserved or unserved parts of the state with, this ESG funding. But we did want to clarify that if you are somebody who's getting ESG, and we know that some of you guys have maybe had a little bit of trouble spending the ESG because you've been focused on CV, and we have heard that a little bit too. And that's okay. We understand that, but just know that it's possible that your regular ESG funding is going to be less than what you had gotten in the past.
Yes.
So there is just a little bit more money, and Diane can speak specifically, but definitely not proportional to the number of applicants we received.
Yeah. This year we only received an additional $10,000 from what we received last year. So it won't even put a dent. That's why we're just letting you know and warning you that, the allocations across the board will be significantly less than you have seen in prior years.
So one thing I can say is timing wise, in a perfect world, Diane would have gone through all our applications and been able to notify you of your funding, and then you'd be able to say, "Oh, we need to we need to, get additional funding here for that." Unfortunately, the timing's not going to work out because we got to move this. And if Diane didn't need to sleep or eat or ever leave her desk, she could probably review all those ESG all 90 some of those ESG applications in a matter of days. But unfortunately, that's just not the case. So we want to make sure, obviously, we give Diane time to do that and do it correctly. So I wish we could tell you kind of, think about putting in for this much more, but we're not able to do that.
Jesse had a quick question about the timing of that, and I think Rachel was just touching on that. Yes, your application for this reallocation will be due before Diane gets all those notifications out. So we wanted to make sure to give you a heads up on some of this.
So I also want to address Jennifer's statement here. So as you'll notice on this on the slide, I'll share my screen again. Um, Hopefully, okay, good, it's shared. That we are prioritizing existing rapid rehousing partners, and then from there we are prioritizing this funding. We have no idea how much y'all are going to request, and there is potentially down the line, HUD could also notify us because we did such a good job spending that even more money is available. So Amanda and I have really talked it through. And instead of continuing to come back to all the ESG CV partners again and again and again saying, more money, more money, more money, can you put another request? We're really going to try to the best of our ability take requests now, and then for this million for sure, and then hopefully any additional money that might be awarded back from HUD that HUD has recaptured, that we would then be able to look back at these applications and say, oh, there was still need here, and go back to you again saying, hey, you don't need to submit anything else because we already have a budget and a narrative, rationale, but we do have more money available and can come back to you and talk to you, about that. So I know that's a little bit loosey goosey, but what we're trying to do is avoid making you submit tons of paperwork over and over again. This does mean though that even though we are prioritizing rapid rehousing, we are opening this up to any ESG CV funded agencies to ask, they can express interest in applying. Whether or not they're awarded from this million, we can't say, we're gonna, once we kind of get stuff in, we'll be able to assess, the best way of allocating out this funding through the prioritization I'm listing here. But, rapid rehousing, we really want to commit to that. But we also understand that we have some partners, in the shelter world, in the street outreach world, who have demonstrated the capacity to spend their funding and have been very compliant with the ESG CV process. And so we want to recognize that too. And if we only have, $200,000 in rapid rehousing requests, we will then be looking at the shelter operations, funding needs and other things like that. So that would also allow for additional funding to help support, those of you who apply under traditional ESG, and give that same timeline from September through September of next year for this funding. Yes, and I will go ahead. I'll just quickly touch on the HUD NOFO before handing it over to Amanda to talk about timeline and process. So I know that some folks have seen the HUD notice that came through because we got your emails and your excitement. So we are excited too. We're also very overwhelmed because the HUD notice of funding opportunity that was announced is it's actually it's two applications, and this is all in addition to the regular continuum of care program that we are always, running every year, that competition. There is approximately 322 million set aside by HUD to serve unsheltered homelessness and then rural homelessness. And if you go to this website, and I can drop the link in our chat too, you can see the list in the related documents field for rural counties. I have a little map. I've marked them all on a map because it's a long list, but it's not every county. It's really any, if you've got, if you're part of a metropolitan statistical area of another, larger community, you're definitely not on the list. But there's quite a few counties in Indiana, obviously, that qualify as rural. And this funding application is due in October, and we're going to be working with the COC board and our funding and resource committee to, work through this application and follow all our kind of traditional continuum of care program policies to administer a competition. And that funding, the application will be due in October, and we'll likely hear about that funding in December or January. So again, if it's possible that, if you've got some folks on contract for some of these, unique positions, these positions may be an opportunity for us to use this additional NOFO for too. So there's really some really unique alignment that's happening right now if you are trying to continue some of the CV level services that you were able to kind of adopt during the pandemic. So more information on eligible expenses and things like that, we can provide guidance on later. But definitely know that, we are looking at this NOFO. We'll be working with the board and the funding and resource committee to, follow the processes and connect with partners about how they can apply. And that this would, potentially even be renewable. But they're being a little cagey about whether or not the funding would be renewable. It is a 3-year grant instead of a 1 year, which is nice. You don't have to apply every year for a couple of years. But there's everything within the NOFO indicates that it could be. So it's definitely allowed to be renewable, whether or not, if Congress does something crazy, that would really be the only thing that could possibly prevent it. But I think the intention is for this to be renewable funding, which would be, obviously really tremendous for everybody who could be funded. It will be highly competitive, as you can, if you have a chance to look at the NOFO, it's set up to be a very competitive process. But I do think, especially within the rural communities, we have a real opportunity to serve some areas of our state that are very underserved or really need these resources. So more information coming soon. But just, again, thinking through how some of this might all come together for you, please keep an eye out for information about this other NOFO, because it may create some good alignment for your programs. So Amanda, I'm passing the baton over to you to talk about how folks apply and due dates and things like that. Or apply. It's express interest. We're not like making you fill out lots of forms, but we definitely want to document.
Yes, definitely. It's going to be very similar to what we've asked of you in the last few months when you're making your additional requests. I am going to structure it a little more than what I have in the past, but like previously, I've just asked you to submit your own thing. I'm going to send out, it'll be a spreadsheet. Basically, you can just plug in your numbers that you're requesting with a little brief narrative on how this is going to fund your project and how you're going to utilize the funds. That will help us if we don't have enough to go around, that'll help us determine what agencies that, would get the most funding through this. My goal is to have that out by the middle to end of next week. Right now I'm working like a crazy lady getting through all your extension amendments to extend your awards. As soon as I can get through that, I will get this sent out to you. And we are going to ask for that back by July 22nd. I know that's a quick turnaround, But we also want to make sure that if we need to get this in front of the HCDA board, that we have enough time to get through these requests and make sure we're covered on all of our timeframes on our side as well. Like Rachel said, we want to get this money out the door as quickly as possible to you all. So again, I know it's a quick turnaround, but I know we can do it. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to go into great detail in your narrative or anything like that. Just a short, brief description, and then the amount of your requests by line items. It will be one spreadsheet for all of your requests. So for those of you that have like rapid rehousing and shelter and outreach, I'm just asking for the one spreadsheet. It's on the bottom of the tabs. You'll just click on outreach, rapid rehousing, or shelter as appropriate and put all of your requests into one document that you're going to send. And again, if you have questions when you're filling that out, please reach out. I'm happy to help.
Amanda, Tony had a question here. So on regular ESG, we have food, utilities, security system, et cetera, for regular shelter. Can this go on could they use any of those things in their extended CV funding request? I have typed in the chat that if you're requesting funds, it could be any eligible expenses that you applied for in your original ESG CV. So if it's eligible now, then it'll be on the spreadsheet that Amanda is sending. Is that correct?
That's correct. It's all the same program, all the same guidance right now. So if you are requesting those, like Rachel had mentioned, we are placing the priority on rapid rehousing right now. So those will be funded, those projects will be funded first, and then we'll see what we have left. I know many of you have also expressed for shelter operations, but also the hotel motel vouchers under shelter as well. So I know there is still a need for that as we're working through the housing issues.
And again, some really cool alignment that's happening, that NOFO for rural homelessness does allow for a similar type of expense to the hotel motel stay. So if that's something of interest to you, again, keep your ear to the ground, your eye on your email for more information about that NOFO, particularly if you're in a rural county, because that will be eligible in that NOFO, which is really exciting.
And we will pass on also our condolences as HUD gave us their condolences, that those will be a quick turnaround as well. Those NOFOs are running those supplemental NOFOs are running the same time as the regular COC NOFO.
Yeah, we haven't gotten notification yet, but again, on every call I had this week, the SNAPS office, the office that manages the continuum of care application process, said we still anticipate having a NOFO out this summer, and they've even said they are having it due before this one that's due October 20th. So pray for all of us that are applying for COC money and do that process because there's a lot going on right now. Who knows if that's actually accurate, but it'll be a wild summer if that's the case.
I also want to put a plug in for outreach. As Diane mentioned, for regular ESG, there were a lot more outreach applications. So please, if you do have an outreach program and an award, keep that in mind. This funding could help you get through those winter months when, that you may need that extra funding, extra supplies, and keeping your teams going through those winter months, in addition to the hot months that we've been having now.
And I want to revisit a question that Tony asked earlier regarding timing. And if you if you are significantly concerned about whether or not you're going to get enough ESG to support your program, go ahead and submit whatever you want in this request. We can't necessarily guarantee we're going to be able to give you all of that, but we'd like to know what the need is, because we do have this $1 million, and we know that we know the spending timeline for this funding is through September 2023. But if we do get additional HUD allocations because of unspent funds nationally, and we get more, we have no idea how much that will be. I don't think we're expecting to get like $5 million, but we could get some. And it may be that because we have this information that there is need out there, that we can, approach programs that are really struggling, and having conversations about, the funding that's available, and all of that. So I realize that it can feel overwhelming to put in requests for, this type of money. But if it ends up as, if it ends up that you find out your award, shortly after we tell you your ESG award, shortly after we tell you this one, it doesn't mean that Amanda and we can't work together to right size whatever, you might be getting. Don't worry about having too much, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I don't think we ever do in homeless services, but I feel like if the pandemic has taught us anything, is more money, more problems sometimes, right? It's a blessing. We all love having it, but it's a lot of work. It's a lot of pressure. It's a lot. So please just know we're here to help. We're here to support and make sure you're administering the program that you want to administer and in a way that's compliant. And, we'll be in touch with more information about this opportunity and upcoming opportunities really, really soon with you all. So any other questions? That looks nice where you are, Katrina.
It is. It's lovely outside.
Okay, if no one else has any more questions, we will let you get back to your day. Again, we appreciate you taking the time. Oh, Diane has one more
Yeah.
thing before we go.
Yep. I just wanted to mention, I think I said this on Monday's monthly call, but I just wanted to mention that you you won't hear from me before the end of July. Those allocations have to go before the IHCDA board and be approved, and that meeting isn't until July 28th. So you will hear from me in late July about your reduced allocation in all cases. Okay. Thanks. Sorry.
Oh, goodness. Well,
Thanks,
the
everybody.
Thank you
good news
all.
is that there is additional ESG CV unmatched, which is required to be, or it's not required to be matched. So let's leave on a positive note with that.
Yes. And
So yeah,
believe it or not, we will have some additional funds left over from 2021. So, next January, if you're all spent out, or very close to being spent out, you would qualify for some reallocated ESG dollars as well. So just keep that in mind.
Yeah, we want all this money spent. That's our goal. That's the top of my list. So
Yep.
thank you all so much for your time.
Thank you.
did
Bye
it.
bye.
Have a great day, everyone. Have a happy 4th.
Yay.